Day one of the Combine in the books. Big, big day for one Gamecock specifically. We get into that and more. Locked On Gamecock starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and we've got a fun little quick episode for you before we get into the weekend. Day one, NFL Combine is over. Before we get to day one of the Combine, I want to talk about our day ones here at the pod and say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, guys, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, so day one, NFL Combine in the books. Very excited. Very, very excited for a number of reasons, but specifically excited because the player that we all knew was going to have himself a field day had himself a field day. And Demetrius Knight Jr., I thought was fantastic today. And a lot of other people did too. And a lot of other people that are going to be able to put money in his pocket, make his dreams come true, and do more than just talk about him glowingly on a podcast. So I'm very excited that all those people saw what we have been seeing for months and months and months. I was telling this thing the other day. I've said it, I feel like 1,000 times the past couple of days, and I will continue to because it just feels like one of those really cool things that we've all kind of get to watch in real time. When I first started doing the podcast, last July, I remember I was going through the roster and looking at all the players and trying to learn different things and just figuring out a way to get caught up so I didn't feel like an idiot when I was trying to talk to you guys, more so than the idiot that I already am. And when I was going through that, I remember looking at Demetrius Knight Jr., reading up on him, and I was like, that kid, 21.5 miles an hour. At that size, that's crazy. And from day one, it felt like I was kind of blown away by this kid. And for whatever reason, despite an incredible year where he finished second on the team in tackles, did everything for your school, you see some of like the tape that keeps coming out. It feels like with a lot of South Carolina players, and a lot of times, you kind of have this like, oh, they're going to catch on at some point. They're going to see it at some point, right? Like at some point, people are going to realize like, hey, that guy's legit. Like sometimes it takes getting to the Combine to do it. Xavier Legette, we saw him put up over 1,200 yards in 2023. And it wasn't until he got to the Combine that we were like, oh, that guy, the guy with the accent, he's really good. You're like, yeah, it's really good. So Demetrius Knight, it felt like this was the guy that I was hoping like about a month ago, maybe his performance would boost him into the first round. Maybe being at the Combine would boost him into getting a late day one, early day two draft position. And I don't know if that's going to happen in terms of being a day one draft pick. I'm not sure that's the case. I don't know how many surprises we're even going to see in the first round, whether it's people dropping or going up. It just seems like for the most part, 1 through 5 and then really 20 to 32 seem kind of over the last couple weeks, they kind of seem like, oh yeah, we know who's slotted there. Now that may be way premature because of you have 3 more days of the Combine, and we all know what we get to see tomorrow, which is Nick Emmanwori. Now, here's the deal. He comes in, and I'm talking about Knight still. Demetrius Knight Jr. comes in. Now, at the Senior Bowl, he was bigger, I think. I think he weighed 248 because I kept talking about, 6'3", 250. His actual size at the Combine, so I believe this has to be true because I don't know how they would ever fudge the numbers on this, but they had him at 6'2", 235, 10-inch hand, which whatever, and I think it's a 32 and 5/8 arm, whatever. That's not really important. But 6'2", 235, he comes in, steals the show for kind of like there's other players that had really, really from his personality getting to shine through, he had these Scrooge McDuck gold cleats on that were awesome that he got from Adidas. You see the smile, you see his entire personality really shine through, and you saw it with him, not in his interviews because we weren't privy to that, but you saw his entire personality get to kind of shine throughout the day, and especially in the on-field drills. One of my favorite things that you started to see with him over the past couple of days is you saw people that were posting some of his highlights, and it was from stuff that you really didn't see for most of the year. The thing that he does so well is that he can run sideline to sideline, but his explosiveness and his speed, not just the sideline to sideline speed, his explosiveness and acceleration is off the charts. The play he had where he sacked Milroe, where he came from like 15, 20 yards away, and by all means, let's also understand Jalen Milroe is one of the fastest athletes in the country in all of college football. It was impressive to see what he was able to do. Now, he runs a 4.58. His 10-yard split was 1.58. Those are both exceptional. Elite for under a 10-yard split. I'm not sure what it would be for linebackers. I think elite from like 1.5, 1.55 area, but he's at 1.58 there. So it's not just somebody that gets faster as he gets going, kind of like, for lack of a better example, Derrick Henry. Vertical jump, 31.5. Broad jump, 9.10. 3-cone drill, 7.12. That's very, very good. And then the 20-yard shuttle, 4.25. Now, he didn't do the bench press, but this next-gen stats, the score breakdown for him, okay? He was a 74 overall. It's the seventh best in the linebackers. And then his production score was a 71, which was fifth among linebackers. Athleticism was 11th out of linebackers, which I don't know how that's even possible. But overall, his day was very good. He was in the handful of players that you saw and said, that guy had a really, really good day. He had a really, really good day. So there is that. And then you start talking about some of the other stuff. And by the way, those next-gen stats numbers I'm just now seeing, those are all players, what their stats are coming in. So these aren't even like from today necessarily. So that's also kind of interesting. I thought he had a good day. Kyle Kennard, another guy. Kyle Kennard ran around about 4.75. I'll have to pull it up real quick to be on the safe side. But he was I'm pulling these up right now. Wow, Danny Stutzman ran a 4.52. Yeah, Knight ran a 4.58, which was top 10, by the way, of all the linebackers and participants today. Shamar Stewart made himself some money as well. Let's see here. Keep going. Yeah, so it looks like Kyle Kennard, he had himself a really good day. In drills especially, I thought he looked a little bit stiff early, but he looks really good overall in his drills. He ran a 4.73. I'm trying to pull up his other numbers right now. He ran a 4.73, and then in the other drills, he had a 1.63 split. That's all he did was run the 40. So that's good too. Weighed in 6'4", 254, it says. 34-inch arm. That's also very important for an edge rush. So nothing crazy in terms of speed off the edge necessarily from him, 4.73. But the more important thing for him was that 1.63 split, because at his position, as a guy that what he weighs and how big he is in the position he's on, anything under a 1.7 is very, very good coming off the edge. To have a 1.63 at that size, that's the straight line up, like upstream, for lack of better words. Being able to get upfield and get in the backfield, we've seen that so many times. The 34-inch arms, being able to leverage his length and bend, which is elite. Now, speaking of the bend part of it, and this is something that really Jordan Birch also ran. They ran a 4.67, which is impressive. So one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I didn't really enjoy watching it. Tonka had a hard time with this. TJ Sanders had a hard time with this. There were a lot of other players that had a hard time with this as well. The surface in Indy was weirdly slippery. So you didn't have hold on. That you didn't have a, what's the best way to put it? A bad performance by any means, but your performance was impacted by the surface. And in Tonka especially, I think one of them came out of a shoe at some point, and it was like a South Carolina guy came out of a shoe at some point. But overall, everyone in drills looked really good, looked very fluid. Hips looked good, being able to drop back. That was one of the things with Kyle Kennard, especially one of the drills he was able to do. Very, very good getting in and out of breaks, being able to change direction very well. And then also just running it's not the gauntlet, that's the receiver one, but being able to run some of these the cone drills, like the bend drill, being able to get around. Basically, it's like a giant hula hoop that they run for pass rushers and stuff like that. Dan Martin-Scott also had a good day. The on-field portion of it was very, very impactful and beneficial for all the South Carolina players that were involved. So I thought that was really, really good and really important. Really, out of the players that went today, and I believe it was about 5 of them that did on-field drills, though. Demetrius Knight Jr. was the one that really popped the most in the eyes of, I think, other people. And again, it's not to say that anyone else had a bad day. It's way more of the fact that people are finally getting to see what that kid has been able to do all season. And in Clayton White's defense and on the field last year, people are now finally getting to see, like, oh, there's more than just Abdul Carter. And there's more than the linebackers, just Jalen Walker and Jihad Campbell, who they had good days too. But it was really, really impressive to see what Demetrius Knight Jr. did. And now you're starting to see some of these guys and this influx of talent in having 11 guys go to the NFL Combine. You're going to have this more like this stick-to-itiveness and like stickiness, I think, in terms of attention and broadcast stuff. Every year when you see these NFL Combine stuff, especially the past couple of years, you've seen Georgia get a ton of attention. And it's like one of the best recruiting pitches you can give to young kids, because it's like, you go to Georgia, you're clearly going to end up in Indy, and then you're clearly going to end up getting drafted, as well, as we've seen the past couple of years when you've had 33 guys drafted from that school in the last 3 years. South Carolina is not at that level because no one's at that level. Like 15 players drafted, I think, was a record, and then 10 the year after. But this is the kind of stuff that you start seeing where you're able to start building the more more longevity, more sustainability. And honestly, the biggest thing, more substance to what you have built culture-wise and development-wise at South Carolina. So that is all for today's episode, for this quick episode. NFL Combine Day 1 in the books. Tomorrow, get excited because Nicky Manwari takes the stage, and he seems confident. I cannot wait. I think it starts at 3 p.m. Eastern, so get home early, grab yourself a fun beverage to have, maybe get some snacks. I don't know. Maybe go to Rush's, get yourself a burger that'll put you into a coma, like I did the other day. Sit home, watch the Combine from 3 to 7, turn on South Carolina, game 1 against Clemson Friday night. We will be here again tomorrow night, Friday after the game, with a live reaction to game 1, and we will talk to y'all then. Y'all have a great day. Go Cox.